Hi, it's Phil Stacy, Executive Sports Editor of the Salem News. Welcome to another edition of Bandied About, our high school sports podcast for the Salem News and our sister paper, the Gloucester Times. With me, as always, Assistant Sports Editor Matt Williams and Gloucester Times Sports Editor Nick Giannino. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Good to see you guys.
You too. Nick, steering the ship today. Sail us into some warm waters, please, with your direction this afternoon.
Sure. Yeah, I figured we'd start with some boys hockey. We're getting down the home stretch of the regular season here, and power rankings. We're starting to see where our teams are going to land or close to it anyway. A little bit of shuffling in the rankings I noticed this week in the Cape Ann area. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, we'll start with the boys hockey. Give us a chance to talk about Gloucester, who's climbed back to 500 now, 7-7-1. We've talked about them being a young team and a lot of new faces taking on bigger roles this year. And one of those guys is their goalie. They only got one goalie, sophomore Trey Maroney,
Yeah.
and he had a great start to the season and a little bit came back down to earth a little bit in the middle of the regular season, but he's starting to play some good hockey and has been a real boon for them and had a nice performance against Danvers to get the win last night. Phil, you were at that game. What did you see from Gloucester and Danvers as you were there at Talbot Rink last night?
Well, I think when you and I was speaking with Derek Geary after the game last night through text, I was there at the game and obviously talked to Derek afterwards, but then the three of us were talking after that. And I was saying I thought that of the four times I've watched him play this year, this was by far his best performance. He was very confident, skating well between the pipes, letting a lot of shots hit him, but tracking the puck as well as I've seen him all season, especially through screens and tips and whatnot. The only goal that did beat him was off a tip screenshot on the power play. Other than that, he stood really tall in his net. He's the reason why Gloucester won that game. They are 7-7-1, as you said, and the 15 games in, that's quite a bit ahead of many other teams in the area that have played, 11, 12, maybe 13, but nobody's played the volume of games that
Yeah,
Gloucester has so far, and they're going to keep that pace going. I think they're at Winthrop Saturday. They're at Masco. I'm sorry, they're at Linfield, I think. They host Linfield next Wednesday. Then they're at Masco. And then they play Marblehead. So they'll by February 10th, I think they'll have played 19 games, which means they'll have quite a bit of time off between the end of the regular season and the state tournament. But I think consistency is the biggest thing for Gloucester. When they're playing consistent, they can have success. I think they did that fairly well. That they dictated the pace through two periods last night. Third period, they were back on their heels, and it was Trey Marone that saved them in net. Danvers
yeah,
came out 15 shots. They really pushed the play. They were keeping pucks in the zone. They were cycling well, and Gloucester, to be quite honest, looked timid. So they have to find some three zone consistency in order for long-term success. And I think it's still with a young team, it's still a work in progress. Danvers, it sounds like a cliche, but they're better than their record would tell you. They're 3-8-2. But I see talent there. I mean, if I'm being honest, they probably on paper have more talent than Gloucester, throughout the lineup. I think Josh Henry is a terrific high school defenseman in Northeastern Conference. Cooper Dunham has played pretty well all season. Seamus Carey has played well all season. Their biggest issue, I think, is compete level, and I guess maybe compete is the right word to use there too. Consistency, I should say, because they look great like they did in the third period last night. I mean, they were going great guns, but
yeah,
they just aren't able to generate that over a full three period game in a lot of cases. So they're going to make the playoffs just because of the way it's structured in the power seedings. They don't need to worry about losing a playoff spot, but you obviously want to be playing well as we end January here and go into February prior to the start of the postseason. And Coach Bill Sheehan feels like, if we can string together some wins here, we still have a shot at a home playoff game. That's the goal. So if Danvers is going to kick it into gear, they really need to start to do that now.
yeah. Any other hockey notes around the area? I know Rockport is struggling to find the win column, but Garrett Stevens, the head coach, has been very positive. I know they've had a lot of guys in and out of the lineup, whether it's injuries or illnesses, and they've had some close games. They've had some games where they're on the bad side of a blowout. Getting great goalie play from Cooper Miller and Luke Holmes, but those two can't do it all. I mean, they're facing upwards of 30 shots every game, 40 shots every
Oh,
game.
far more than that, actually. I think
Yeah,
now
yeah.
it's like based on the stats I updated this morning. Well, actually, I take that back. They've played 16 games now, so there's goes my theory about Gloucester being far ahead of everybody else. They're
Something in
now
the Cape Ann here. Yeah, they're getting these
yeah,
games in.
but their goalies have faced over 700 shots in 16 games. It's a ridiculous pace.
Yeah,
They've made, I want to say it's an even number, 660 saves between Luke Holmes and Cooper Miller. It's all about defensive structure. They really have, they have a very young, very inexperienced defense,
yeah.
and their goalies just get pelted. And I think, you know, you can score like they have guys who can put the puck in the net. Ryan Meany and Ben Rainier and Ryan Fazio can all score. Matt Coughlin, he's a sophomore. He's looked good on that left wing, but they just don't have the guys who can shut it down, clear the zone, clear the front of the net, win 50-50 pucks out front with enough consistency that their goaltenders are not getting pelted. And last night against Essex Tech was probably a worst case scenario for them. I mean, Essex Tech is one of the better teams in our area, 12-1-1 now. They do have everything that is a recipe for disaster for Rockport. They have depth, they have speed, they have strong defense. I think they only allowed 9 shots last night in their win. Uh,
Jeez.
so, you know, tough for Rockport to go against that. Essex Tech is just continuing to roll along, Nick. They're ranked top 4 in Division 3 right now in the power rankings. And they've won, I want to say now it's what, 8 in a row, I want to say, since they had a tie with Shawsheen, and they're unbeaten in their last 11. Um, Cam Casey has really been coming on. A little bit of a slow start, but he's an offensively minded junior defenseman. He's now up to 4 goals and 15 assists for 19 points in those 13 games. Brady Leonard, we've talked about him a lot, one of the 4 captains. He's leading the North Shore in scoring with 35 points. Jaden Vargas, Brian DeLisio, Anthony Becenti, Ben Rehall, on and on and on. These guys, they got a lot of depth, and they get solid goaltending from Tegan Moreau, whose goals against average is right around 1.8. So he's playing well.
Phil, to you, what is it about the hockey program over at Essex Tech that is allowing them to thrive, really? I mean, they're one of the few teams at the school that's really delivered since transitioning into the Cape Ann League. I mean, you look at the hoop teams, they're still struggling to find the win column. Look at football, they've had their moments, but overall they're still struggling to find that compete level against some of these Cape Ann League. I mean, what is it about the hockey team that they're able to have so much success?
Yeah, it's the coach. I
Yeah.
mean, he coached a lot of these guys, especially the seniors and juniors. He being Mark Leonard, coached a lot of these guys when he ran his own New England Coyotes program, and a lot of them followed him to Essex Tech when he got the job there several years ago. And I've been saying this for the better part of a year now. I mean, Essex Tech's ascension as a hockey program is really hurting some Northeastern Conference schools that would normally have these players. The Danverses, the Peabodys, the Beverleys. I mean, so while we see a rise for the Hawks, some of the other the conference teams are kind of like, ooh, these guys would have been playing for us.
Yeah.
It's a good mix over there. They've got it going really well. And hey, who doesn't want to be part of a winner? They've been on the rise, year after year after year. They keep rising, keep rising. And this, at least as we stand right now, stands to be their best season ever. So I think a lot of it is familiarity with Coach Leonard and the players. A lot of them know each other and have played with each other before, and it's working very well there. I should mention too, St. John's Prep.
All right.
They are 7-1 atop the Catholic Conference. They won the Catholic Conference last year for the first time in 9 years. Now they have a chance to go back to back. They have 2 league games left. But they were 2-3 on New Year's Day. They lost at home to Reading on New Year's Day, and they were 2-3. And I think there was some real soul searching going on among both the players and the coaching staff. Like, we've won 2 out of the 3 of the last two of the last three, excuse me, Division One state titles. Yeah, we graduate a lot of guys, but what's going on? We are not playing what they call St. John's Prep hockey. And since then, they've gone 7-1. They've gone 5-1 against Catholic Conference competition during that time. They really seem to have turned a corner. And in fact, I would say several corners in terms of upping their compete level, learning how to win games when they're not playing the best, finding a way to bury opponents when they have the chance, and really locking it down defensively. The scoring is not what we've seen the last few years, but it's steadily improved behind the likes of like Sam Croak and Brandon Ward, Ryan DeLucia, guys like that. Jarrett Goldstein's holding it down in the back end as kind of the leader among the defensemen of the team. And AJ Farisi, who backboned that team to a state title last year, is has gotten his game back, and he's really been playing much better as of late.
All right, let's jump to hoop here. Get Willie involved a little bit as well. I want to start with a Cape Ann League team, Hamilton Wenham, the boys. They're cruising right along right now. I think they started the season 0-3, and I remember watching them early in the year against Manchester. Manchester beat them by about 20 points. And I'm watching the game and I'm saying, man, this Hamilton Wenham team has some real talent. Like they got a chance to turn this around. I saw the potential, and now they've got, I believe, unless they lost since that Manchester, they beat Manchester the second time around in overtime. I believe 10 wins in a row, something like that. So Hamilton Wenham's really coming together. AB LaBelle running the show, knocking down threes, leading the area in assists. Caden Schrock, who was a good football player, if I recall correctly, is also having a terrific season. They get Alex Meningoni, who's another guard that can knock down shots, and he's been scoring at a high level. So with those three and some depth, rotating a lot of guys, they're playing some really good basketball. And the Cape Ann League is one of those leagues where it's again pretty top heavy, I think, with Hamilton, Manchester, and then obviously Newburyport is really been dominating all season in the Cal. They haven't lost a game in quite a while. They're going to be playing Manchester next week, I believe on Monday. That's going to be a big game for not only to see who's kind of the top dog after Manchester's won three in a row in the Baker division, but just a good playoff tune-up for both those teams. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen Hamilton Wenham play or if you have heard from Nick DiMarino, the coach over there. I just think they're really coming together after that slow start. I mean, 0-3, like I said, and now they're just cruising right along.
Not easy to
So
do either. Go ahead, Willie.
streak is over. They lost to Newburyport, which
There you
is
go.
clearly the class of the Cal, I think. Although that Newburyport Manchester game is going to be interesting. I did not realize that Manchester had won 40 straight Cape Ann League games
Yeah.
until Hamilton beat them, which means that Manchester handled Port last year. So I'm sure that'll be on the minds of Port. I know both Manchester and Port are trying to stay in the top 10 of their respective power rankings. I mean, Newburyport, Division Three is like super loaded. Newburyport goes to the Commonwealth tournament. They end up playing St. John's Prep, which is 1-13 and nowhere near the tournament. Lawrence also not in the tournament. So
Yeah.
unfortunately for Newburyport, they're not getting the benefit of going to that Commonwealth tournament that they expected. It's a shame that they try to fix their power. They tell you, oh, fix your power rankings, schedule tough teams. So Newburyport goes ahead and joins the most competitive tournament, Christmas tournament in the state, and by luck of the draw, it doesn't help them that much. So that kind of stinks. But to Nick's point, it just shows you how top heavy the Cape Ann League is, and certainly it appears that at this moment that the Hornets and Gens will share the Baker title, although if the Hornets can upset Newburyport, then they'll have that title all to themselves. So that's just another carrot in that big game next week to add.
And that
And
is that game's in Newburyport too, which makes it more difficult. I played at Newburyport High, growing up when I was up in Tuckett, and that's a tough gym to play in. Something about the way the rims are positioned there, the baskets are positioned with the open backdrop. It's difficult to shoot if you're not playing there, consistently like Newburyport obviously is as their home gym. So, and it can get pretty loud over there. I'm sure that they'll get a lot of fans and people will be pumped up for that one against another good opponent. But Yeah, Newburyport's. I mean, they got a lot of talent. They got size. We talk about how big of a factor size is at this level. You know, if you got a 6'5", 6'6" kid in the middle, not a lot of teams can combat that. So, yeah, they look impressive, and it stinks that they can't improve their power ranking too much with the schedule they have. I think Kyle Gaudet over in Newburyport wrote a column about that, about how they're just dominating everyone. But 10-point win is the same as a 50-point win, and you're playing these teams that are either, like you said, in the tournament, not having great success at the Division 1 level, or they're in your division or your Cape Ann League, and it's just not helping them too much in the rankings. So, but
And
they're
they
going to be a
tried. I
threat
mean, it's
regardless.
not their fault.
No, no.
No, I
Another
mean,
team I
Salem
want
is
to
ranked ahead of them, I think, in the latest.
Yeah, they are. They
Yeah,
are.
I thought so.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that was my next question, my segue. Another team I want to touch on is Salem. We always talk about the NEC being kind of down in the power rankings, and we see that a little bit with Beverly in the Division 1 ranks, but Salem sitting here at number 5, which even with their 9-1 record, I wouldn't expect them to be that high, and yet here they are, and they have the potential to move up even further because they're still got to play Beverly and Masconomet
That's
here
right.
coming down the stretch. Phil, you had a chance to see Salem last week. Now, I look on paper, I don't see a ton after Ilian Rodriguez. I think we expected them maybe to not be quite this strong with Jordan Maxson departing for Pingree, and yet they found a real gem in Kane McLeod and some really good role players. So tell us about
Well, Nathan Lane
about Kane
too.
and
Yeah,
what's
I mean,
going
I
on
I
over
saw
there.
them as well, just quickly against Gloucester, and Nate Lane was the player of the game in that one. He hit six threes. So,
Wow.
Rodriguez is the consistent guy. He's going to get his points. He's going to usually lead the way as that sophomore guard, but they're getting some good play out of their role players. And Tommy doesn't go too deep in his bench, but they got some athletes there that can defend. Rocco Ryan. I'm trying to think of the guy's name the other night. He's got two last names, a hyphenated
Oh,
last name.
Josh Gayeff. Yeah,
Hodge.
Hodge.
Yep.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I was impressed with him doing a little bit of everything.
Well,
So,
well, I think
and
that's
have the
what it
size.
is. It's a team that it's a typical Salem team in that it doesn't have any height, but they rely on defense to create offense. I mean, they're ball hawks defensively. They
Yeah.
really get after it. And even when there's a bigger guy they're matched up against in the paint, they're swarming him. They're doubling up in the paint. They're making it difficult for guys to catch and release, if that's the right way to say it. And if a team is going to come down and beat them on 3 point, the one loss they have was to Beverly. And I was at that game, and Beverly came out on fire, and that was it. Salem just couldn't play catch up. They didn't have the wherewithal on that night. But against every other opponent they played, I mean, they played Georgetown recently. Now Georgetown is a top Division 4 team. I mean, maybe that's not a Masco, but that's a pretty quality opponent. And Salem just battled and got after it defensively, caused turnovers. Turnovers go into odd man breaks the other way, fast breaks, or they get numbers going the other way, or they're able to pound it inside. And to me, honestly, they do rebound, especially in the offensive glass, surprisingly well for not a very big team. That I was surprised by.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I mean, we can touch upon Gloucester, who played them pretty closely the other night
Mhm.
against Salem. Just talking with the Gloucester coach, he was very pleased with the effort. Just felt like a few more shots went in for Salem down the stretch. I mentioned Nate Lane; he hit some big threes. Rodriguez hit a big three late. But Gloucester's a team that's 8-6. They're likely going to get back into the state tournament this year in Division 3. I think they were ranked 25,
Yeah,
26
aren't there three teams
previously.
from the conference in the Division 3 top 32? I mean, Swampscott's in there as
Swampscott.
well.
Swampscott's number 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're playing some good hoop, and Will, you're going to be catching them against Beverly tonight. That'll be an interesting matchup. I think Swampscott's got some firepower as well with Chirillo and the freshman there that we talked about, Teddy O'Neill.
What's interesting about Beverly, that you mentioned them, is so they're coming off of games where they scored, I want to say 88 against Marblehead. I mean, they beat Marblehead by almost 50 points, which was remarkable to see. That just doesn't happen to Marblehead basketball.
Right. Right.
And then they go out and they beat Danvers the other night by 30 points or 29 points, I guess. And yet the coaches weren't really happy with the performance against Danvers. And it's crazy. You score 90 points in a high school game, you think, what could be wrong?
Right.
But I think that, they were up 10-0. They were up by 19, maybe 20 points after one quarter. but they got a little complacent. And I think that's what Matt Karakutis and his staff were upset about. It's like it doesn't matter who we're playing, what the score is. We have to keep playing at the same high level because if you let up, the teams you're playing have the wherewithal to come back and make life difficult. Now, Danvers was not going to beat Beverly on Tuesday night because of that huge deficit early on. But there were times where they made them squirm a little bit. They'd go on an 8-0 run, um, or they'd really pressure them and cause, steals on consecutive possessions and things like that. So I think for Beverly, what they want to do in their last 5 games is, I keep going back to this word, find that consistency that they need. It's a lot of new faces, yeah, but you're 3/4 of the way through the regular season. Mistakes that I saw being made the other night should not be being made at this point in the season. So they need to clean up some of those things. It's a roster with some talent. We all know about class. It's unfortunate that one of their other junior captains, Danny Pierce, is out for the year with an injury. That's unfortunate. He suffered during football. He had turf toe. He just hasn't been able to shake it, and they suggested that he take the rest of the time off. In fact, Willie, he'll miss first couple weeks of the baseball season, I think, but he should be back for that. Um, but there's still a lot of really good players on that Beverly team. There are freshmen that can contribute. There's the Isaac Sass, the big guy. He
Yeah.
can play. But it's all about that consistency. Andrew Brangnaca scored what 19 points. He had triple double. He had 11 steals the other night. So, I mean, put all that together and Beverly could be a pretty good team. I'm not saying they're going to win a state title, but they could make some noise. But they
Yeah.
have to be able to corral that into a 32-minute effort.
In Division One, you're not going to be having much success if you're not playing all 4 quarters. That's a gauntlet of a bracket. So,
No, and that honestly, Nick, starts from like the first round on. I mean,
yeah,
as of right now, they would be on the road, right? Unless they had um, some kind of playing game, I'm guessing. So yeah, they're gonna. I mean, right now they're what, 23, I think it was.
yeah, 23. Yep, 9-5.
So, I mean, depending on how many of these teams under the 500 mark, under the 32 mark have a 500 or better record, they could get a home game. But otherwise, you're talking about going on the road. So for them, that means what? They'd have to go to Andover. Right now, Andover's 10. Like that's not an enviable matchup, I wouldn't say.
Right, right. All right, I think we covered a lot for the boys hoop. Any girls hoop notes that we want to get to before we jump into our blind rankings here?
Well, we should talk girls hockey. Certainly, Willie can.
Girls hockey as well. Yeah, let's do that. We had the stat leaders come out again the other day. Willie, what do you got to say about the girls hockey scene?
Yeah, not much to talk about. We got some underperforming clubs around here. We might only have one in the state tournament at this stage. Some of these teams they figure out a way to win some games and I don't know what's going on. They're just overlooking teams. They're just coming back to the pack or what. But I tried to go through my bracketology in this week's column and kind of try to figure out how many wins each team would need to kind of get in and and then there were a couple upset losses last night too. So, time's getting thin. I mean, some of these teams, I mean, like Beverly's got 6 games left at 4-10. They're gonna have to go 3-3 at worst if they want to stay in. Um, they just gotta figure out some consistency here. I mean, you're losing 1-goal games. You lose to Newburyport 6-5, a game where you have great offense and loose defense. Then you lose to Medford 2-1. So you've tightened up your defense, but the offense has abandoned you. I mean, you can't, if you want to stay in the top 32 and make it, yeah, that's just not going to be good enough. Marblehead, another team that sort of seemed to have righted the ship and then has now lost 4 in a row. So that's not going to help them. Masco, had lost 7 out of 8. Finally rights the ship. Great story on youth hockey night. They get a hat trick from senior captain Charlotte Lice, the winger. Hadn't scored a goal all season, hadn't had a hat trick in her career, and she has a hat trick to get Masco back in the win column now. So that's going to help them climb up a little bit. But then you look, their next game is Winthrop. So how do you build on that, right? Like you got to try to keep it close against them and then win some games going forward. So just a lot of inconsistency right now for the hyper local teams on the girls hockey scene, and a lot of work for everybody besides Peabody to do to stay in the state tournament hunt. And then for Peabody, they got to find their consistency as well if they want to try to climb into the top eight of the power rankings. I mean, they lose to Winthrop last night. They were 11th. They're probably not going to lose any ground if much at all. You know, you look forward, they still have a game against the number 3 ranked Malden Catholic, number 5 ranked HPNA. They take care of business there. They're going to be fine. Um, but it's a season that could really go either way. Right now, they're 10-2-1. You look at their schedule, it's not inconceivable they could go, I don't know, 13-6-1, which, yeah, not that great. It's also not inconceivable that they could go 17-2-2, or whatever the math would be there. So they got to figure out how to play consistent on offense. Both of their losses this year were 2-0 games. It's just this case where if they don't get a goal in the first period, they start gripping the sticks and taking bad shots and getting nervous about things, and just got to find a way either to score early or fight through that. So just not a ton of great news for me on the girls hockey front. And it's going to be tough for multiples of these teams to sneak into the state playoffs. I mean, we're not going to have 5, 6, 7 teams in the state playoffs right now, including Gloucester. We'll be lucky if we have 3, which is, I coming into the year, I was hoping for better than that.
Willie, I'm interested to see how that matchup with PBD and HPNA turns out. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours Monday night at the rink, um, whose daughter plays for the team, and was telling me, the strong program and looking forward to that, playoff test against PBD right before the actual playoff start. So be a good chance of both teams to kind of see where they stand and what they need to do in the postseason, I would say.
Yeah, every year it is. I mean, it's a great, always a 1 goal game, 2 goal game, 1-0, 2-0, 1-1, all that. But, two very similar teams. And the one thing about Division One this year is that it is so tightly packed. There are some really good teams. I mean, you look at Methuen is number 6. They're undefeated and they beat HPNA and they're ranked below them because
Belmont's
they're
undefeated
playing.
too, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know much about Belmont, but they are also undefeated. They're number 8.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought there were
Um,
3 undefeated teams in Division One.
St. Mary's has 8 losses. They're down at number 18, which is like, okay, I don't care what their record is. You don't want to see that jersey coming into your place in the first round.
No.
That's bad news. So I just, and I mean, HPNA last year beat Peabody the last week of the season. I thought they were the best team in the state. They were certainly the best team that I saw. And they went out and got upset. I think it was in the first round, maybe the second round. So it's just, there is a lot of parity, which is, it's going to make the tournament very difficult to predict, I think, which is going to be fun. But unfortunately, for us, the vast majority of these teams are not in our little neck of the woods here. But certainly as a neutral observer, and if you're a South Shore based or a Merrimack Valley based, I mean, this tournament is like going to be impossible to predict. When I look at these teams, I mean, the margin between these teams is, once you get out of the first round, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some double digit seeds going deep. If we see some top 4 seeds getting upset, I mean, provided the power rankings stay this way anyway, because they can shift, as teams play their full schedule. But I think this is like really, really, and I've talked to some of the guys around the state that report on this stuff and follow it and whatever. You Tommy Mulherons of the Herald, great guy and everything, but this trying to predict this bracket and just trying to put a top 25 rankings together. I mean, it's going to be impossible, and that's a good thing for the sport. I hope. I hope it brings a lot of attention, because these girls are playing hard, and it's a great product. I mean, I don't mean to be overly critical of these teams that are struggling, because it's a great product when you see when you see it at its highest level. It really is a great product.
I think it's a good segue too into the girls' basketball. I don't think we're going to see a plethora of teams from our region make the tournament. Nick, you'll have Rockport; they'll make it, and Manchester Essex.
Rockport's in. They're
Well,
in
Rockport
probably
needs
with
one more win.
Yeah, they're playing tonight to get their 10th win, but they're inside the top 32 as is,
Yep,
so
yep,
they're
they'll
going
get
to get
in.
in Division 5. And Gloucester girls, they're not getting the benefit of the doubt in the rankings. I think they were in the 40s last time I checked, but
No, the conference honestly is uh, not very well represented in the rankings.
no.
I think we have, is Masco the only team I want to say that's actually in the top 32 of any of the divisions?
Saugus might be,
Okay.
and I can't speak to Winthrop. I mean, they're probably in a low division,
Okay.
but
Of the
you know,
teams that we deal with.
in the NEC, I mean,
And a lot of
Danvers
these teams
is
have winning records too.
well,
Most
Danvers
teams,
is 11-4, and they're in the 40s someplace. I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
which
Marblehead the
you know,
same thing. Now Marblehead's
like
like what, 9-3, 10-3, something like that.
in fairness to Danvers, and I think they're a great story, and I think Angie Joku is an MVP candidate for sure. But playing Ipswich twice will do that to your power ranking.
Yeah.
No offense to the Tigers.
Winless
Yeah.
Ipswich, right. But Peabody, I know they're right around 500, but they're in the 40s there.
And they just
Um,
lost, I should mention. Big win for the Gloucester girls, beating PBD last night. That doesn't happen every year. I
no,
know
it
the head
doesn't.
coach of Gloucester girls, Tommy McDonald, was very excited about that one. They were down by double digits, rallied back, and it's been the Jordan Purdue Del Torchio story. She's probably up over 20 points a game now. She's tearing down rebounds, and she does all her damage in the paint. I don't know if she's hit a three-pointer all season, but let alone attempt one that I've seen. So she's been very impressive. She had 28 points in the win over Peabody. And they're 7-7. Like I said, they're in the 40s in the rankings, in the D3 rankings. But if they can get that 500 mark, they'll get in. And it's been a while since a girls basketball team from Gloucester's been in the tournament. Over
And,
10 years.
and even, Bishop Fenwick, which we've come to rely on as a
Mm,
state powerhouse, and I'm not saying that they can't certainly play to that level, but they're what, 7-6, I think, after losing to Fian the other night. Again, no shame in losing to Fian. They're one of the best teams in the state, but Fenwick's now 7-6, and again, they don't. But if the tournament started today, they'd be on the road for the playoffs. They wouldn't even have a home game, despite the great schedule they play and all. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's and Fenwick, which you got to wonder like Fenwick in Division Two seems, I don't know how that works out. That seems
capricious.
high for. I mean that's got to be their highest division of any sport in the school, right? I
At the
mean most
same
of their
time, though, I almost think that the competition in Division 3 might be better in girls basketball.
yeah. I
I
mean
think there's some
yeah.
better
I guess
teams
in the
there
top. I
anyway.
mean yeah, but Division Two is such a gauntlet, and the crazy thing is like you look at Fenwick at the moment is 17, Masco 22. Uh, when I watched that game, I mean, the gap between those two teams did not appear to be 5 slots. That's for sure. So,
You know,
No, that was a what, 25-point game?
I don't know if it was quite that much. I mean, Fenwick, I'm sorry, Masco did make 2 runs to get within the game. One at the end of the first quarter and one in the middle of the third quarter before it got away from them. But so I don't know if it got quite that high. But you know, Fenwick certainly appeared to be, more than that much ahead of Masco, which, hey, Masco's taking care of business. They've played some tough non-league games, Fenwick chief among them, they still got the McIntyre tournament coming up. So I mean, they're certainly playing some good basketball. I mean, for them, I think the big difference in the last, I don't know, 3, 4 games. I mean, Ava Allen has heated up from behind the arc.
Yeah, she has.
She's making a ton of threes, and when you have the two Lalaco sisters inside, when those outside shots are falling, it's a lot more difficult to defend. So she's, I believe, a senior,
Gave
and
her
she's looking to
23
make
three-pointers, Willie.
major impact.
Yeah.
So that's a game changer for them. I want to say she's even rocketed up into their leading scorer over the
She
last two
is, yeah. I
games.
mean, there are 3 girls that have 9 points or better, and she's at the top of that list, 10.1 points a game with the two Lalico sisters behind her. I think Sammy's about 9.5 points a game, and Angie's right around 9 points a game.
That's definitely a game changer for them. If she stays hot, they can compete certainly with anybody, and I think that's, for lack of a better term, what Fenwick is kind of missing right now. That they've got a great inside game, and the outside game is just a little bit inconsistent, which is fine. I mean, because their guards are new, they've
Right.
got 4 or 5 girls that, and some of them are seniors, but they're new to the varsity. Didn't get a lot of time last year because it was such a loaded team, and but they're hot and cold. Now they work really hard. They always move off the ball. They play great defense. But in terms of knocking shots down, that's where it's become a little bit difficult for them. But you hope that they can get into a good part of their schedule, rack up some wins, and go from there because they are a good team. I mean, they're almost similar to the St. Mary's girls hockey team to me in the sense that, like, if I'm Oliver Ames or Walpole or whoever. Now, Walpole played a really tight game with Fenwick in one of those tournaments, I think. If I'm a top 8 seed, I don't want to see Fenwick at number 18, 19 out
No.
of my gym in the second round. I'm not happy about that. I mean, that's a little bit like, Duke men's basketball or BC men's hockey, like coming in as a quote unquote low seed. That's not going to be an easy game.
Well, they're young, but I mean, they still have Celia Nelson. They still have Caitlin Boyd. They have kids like Sienna Mancinelli who can knock down shots. Kylie Bloom, who's another good shooter for them. I mean, you're right. I think that's a case where it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How did we end up with this matchup in the second round? We're the 3 seed. Why are we playing this team? It could be dangerous.
Yeah, and another team to keep an eye on, I think, is Swampscott. I mean, I know that they're a team that's not getting helped out in the power rankings at the moment. They got a winning record. They're down in the 40s, but they got some scoring ability. I mean, Anna Cander's freshman has, I think, the top five of the top 7 individual scoring games in our little region, which, of course, doesn't include St. Mary's. So throw a little asterisk on there. But she's been over 20 points like 5, 6, 7 times. I mean, in a tournament scenario or against a really good team, if she goes off, I mean that's how you steal a game. So that's a team to keep an eye on. I mean, what she's doing scoring wise has been super impressive.
Doesn't seem to feel any pressure either, being a ninth grader.
Absolutely not. No, and it's amazing because it's allowed Olivia Quagliarello to really distribute the ball. Some may remember last year Olivia was one of their leading scorers as a freshman,
Yes.
but she's more comfortable with the dimes, and now as a sophomore, she's able to handle the ball and distribute it to Anna and has no problem like giving up some of those shots. So I mean, if they keep that core together, for 2026, 27. They're going to be super dangerous over there in Big Blue Town.
The dimes, the dimes.
All right, gentlemen. Let's get into our blind rankings here. Wrap this thing up. Um,
What
we
do you
got the
got?
Super, we got the Super Bowl coming up. We got Pat Mahomes going for his third straight and the Chiefs. I figured we look at the Patriots 6 Super Bowl wins under Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and see if we can rank those. Obviously, we only do 5, so I'm going to leave the 2019 13-3 win over the Rams out of there because I'm sure that would have been last on most of your guys' lists anyway.
Oh, you
So
should
we're
have
ranking
told
them
us.
in.
That's
So
what makes
let's
the
do it.
blind rankings hard.
Yeah,
So we're
well,
ranking them in terms
gotta
of
leave one out. What's that?
favorites or best, or how we doing it?
Let's do like what the best. Well, I'll let you guys decide. Best or favorite.
Okay.
Best game, favorite in terms of your memories of the game, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So let's start with the 2005 win over the Donovan McNabb led Eagles.
Okay.
I'm not going to use the letters here for the
That
Can't
was
read
that was
Roman numerals.
39.
39. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Willie.
I'm gonna put this one fourth, I guess. I mean, it's okay. Like the game was okay. Um, just I mean, looking back, like, Andy Reid, great, Terrell Owens, big game, but I think compared to the others, just in terms of a Super Bowl, and I feel bad because I think like overall, that 2014 might be the best team in Patriots history. But as far as the actual game goes, it's a little underwhelming. It certainly lacks the drama. In fact, I, I I'm gonna move it to fifth. I'm gonna put it fifth.
Okay.
Okay.
I agree with a lot of what Willie said. I think that 2014 was the all-time best Patriots team. I mean, people forget how good Corey Dillon was on that team. He was a monster. I think he ran for like 1,600 yards that year. He was a
He was a
beast.
beast.
Dion Branch, Super Bowl MVP of that game. This also has a place in my heart because it's the one Super Bowl I've ever been to.
Ah,
And everybody rips on Jacksonville and blah, blah, blah. Like to me, it was like, hey, I was thrilled just to be there. Got to cover it and had a front page story the next day in the paper and all. And it was cool. So I'll put it at 4 because it wasn't one of their best wins, but um, it holds a good spot for me. So I'll put that one there.
all right. Let's go with the comeback over the Falcons, 28-3 down, came all the way back and won it in overtime. It was
Um,
2017, I think.
yeah, Willie, I'll go 2 on this one. Um, Remarkable. I mean, they never should have gotten to that point. They were a better team than Atlanta, but Atlanta was 2.5, almost 3 quarters. They look great. But that was just a case in sheer resiliency and getting that Atlanta defense to the point where they were exhausted defensively. And when the Patriots won that coin toss, I knew they were going to score a touchdown on that first drive. I think a lot of people felt that way. Um, Unbelievable dramatics. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy that this isn't that number one, uh, but that's just how good some of their Super Bowls have been. So I'll put it at number 2.
Yeah, three for
Really?
me. Three for
Three?
me. I mean, fun day, but I think it just goes to say I think it's one of those things that shows your age, right? I mean, I think people 10 years, 15 years younger than us would have it number one, and wonder how could you do this? And this is the game that really made Tom Brady Tom Brady. And in some ways helped to end the dynasty later because of the friction and the attitude and really really deified the guy and rightfully so, but I just like some of the other games better. And I think it just kind of, again, like it just shows your age. Like, the games that happen, the magic moments that happen when you're of a certain age tend to mean more to you. And that's why I put this one number three.
I'm actually gonna flip mine and make mine 3 as well.
You're going to change yours to three?
Yeah, I'm gonna bump it to 3. Yeah.
Okay. We'll let it slide. Yeah, I'll admit when I was watching that game and it was 28-3, I'm sitting there and I'm saying out loud, actually, no way they're winning this game. They lost. The Super Bowl's over. And I remember I had one friend there that was like, no, no, just one good drive here, get a stop, another good drive. Like he was locked in saying they can do this. And sure enough, they came back and I ate my words. Um, let's go with the OG Super Bowl, 2002 underdogs against the LA Ram. Well, they were the
St.
St. Louis
Louis.
Rams back then, right?
Yeah.
Kurt Warner, greatest show on turf. Adam Vinatieri field goal. Where we rank that one?
Willie?
Oh, it's number one. I mean, it's not even close. That's it. I mean, you talk about nobody believes in us. This was actually the game where nobody believed in him. You had the great U2 halftime show. I mean,
Yeah,
I literally remember being in a high school math class and we had, predictions on the board and there was just a line down the board of scores. And I mean, they were like 3 scores on the Patriots side, and everybody else in all the classes all day was picking the Rams. I mean, this was it. I mean, this was really the one. And again, you might be showing your age. I'm sure there's kids out there that feel differently, but for me, that original New Orleans with the logo of America, the red, white, and blue. I mean, not only is it the best game, it's the best championship hat that they put out of all the ones with the design on the hat, the best uniform patch that just fit perfectly on there. Ty Law going down the sidelines, dance, doing the Deion Sanders leg snap. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that.
Were you what, a sophomore in high school then?
Junior.
Junior in high school. Okay.
and I was about third or fourth grade. Just old enough to know what was going on. And I remember we did the same thing. We had a list of people picking, and I picked the Rams for sure. I remember saying, I'm rooting for the Patriots, but I think the Rams are going to win. And yeah, they got it done. So I have good memories of that one as well, even though I was only 10 years old. 9 years old.
I was a little bit older than you guys. Watching that with a group of friends. I'm going to put it at two. And I do love it for all the reasons that Willie said. I mean, it's the first. It's a game nobody thought they'd win. This was you guys even wouldn't know like the black cloud that was over this franchise forever. I'm just awful. If it could go wrong, it would go wrong. Even when they were good, they'd get stomped by, the Bears, or they'd lose to Miami, or, they'd lose a game to the Baltimore Colts, or, whatever. Um, but yeah, there was something special about that one. Um, and I'll admit, when the Rams tied it late on that Ricky Prohl touchdown catch, I was like, play for overtime. I was totally,
So was John Madden on the call, right?
yeah, yeah, I was totally team play for overtime. I thought you throw a pass, it's going to get picked off. They're going to kick a field goal. We're going to lose. I was certain that was going to happen. And thank God it didn't, for Patriots fans. And, I think Adam Vinatieri is the greatest kicker in NFL history. He boomed that one through. Yeah, that was a great Super Bowl.
And that was the same year that he hit the field goal in the snow against the Raiders too, right?
Yep. Snowball
Yeah.
kick. Yeah.
So, all right. So you got him at two,
Yep.
Willie at one. We got two more. Let's go with the Seattle, the first Seattle one. Malcolm Butler interception to seal it. Where do you guys have that one?
That's one for me.
Yeah.
Because I think the Seahawks are the best team that the Patriots played during those Super Bowl years. That team was absolutely stacked. Coming off of a Super Bowl, going for two in a row. And yeah, obviously the dumbest play and call in Super Bowl history by Pete Carroll. The Patriots were fortunate, no doubt about it. But they were down 10 points entering the fourth quarter. And they came back against that defense that was like one of the best in NFL history. And,
Legion of Boom.
yeah, I mean, Danny Amendola had a great touchdown. Edelman was, almost knocked senseless. I think in this day and age, he would have been in the blue tent for the rest of the game after that hit he took over the middle of the fourth quarter, but he comes back. Um, that game to me was just remarkable. And I think what made it special was that they could have reverted back to old Patriot techniques in that game where like, oh, they get so close and they lose, but they caught the break this time. And after that, unbelievable was it Javon Curse made that catch? Was it Javon Curse that made that catch?
I think that's
Or
right.
just crazy. That to me, because it was unexpected the way they won it, because they beat a team that was so good and just uh, that was just an awesome game, I thought, all the way around. So I would put that number one.
Yes, it's two for me as well. For everything Phil said, I mean, I think Brady played a perfect fourth quarter. And I know it sounds crazy because of the score, but he almost had to be more perfect in that fourth quarter than he did in the fourth quarter of the 28-3 game, just because of the quality of the opponent. I think, yeah, it's just a heavyweight fight, two of the best teams in NFL history. I have the 2014 team as the second best team in Patriots history. Maybe could give the 2004 team a run for its money, depending upon the uh the rules that the game would be played under at the time, right? And obviously '07 is up there as well too, but certainly, in terms of defenses, I think that's the second best defense in Patriots history. Obviously not consider well, I should say modern Patriots history, not considering the '70s or 86 or whatever, but from 2000 on, or even from '96 on, including that Super Bowl team, that 2014 defense had Revis on one side, Browner on the other, Chandler Jones at the height of his powers. I can't remember who the inside backers were. It must have been either Mayo or Hightower, great players. I don't know if either one of them were healthy at that time because it all runs together. I think Will Fork was probably gone by then, but
I don't think he
just
was actually.
I mean, if he was there, that's even better. But just in terms of the secondary, I mean, Revis, Browner, McCourty, it
Ridiculous.
doesn't get
Yeah.
much better than that. That's right up there with Law, Malloy, and Otis Smith or whoever the backside corner was that year. I mean, that defense was phenomenal. And
Yeah, Patrick
that
Chung was
guy,
in that secondary too, right? I mean, if he's your fourth defensive back,
he's like
that's pretty good. Yeah,
Mr.
and did you
Tabasco
mention
there,
Jamie
but
Collins? He was part of that team too.
yeah, they hadn't exiled him to Cleveland at that point for
Right.
egotistical reasons or whatever. Although God Almighty, I got to take back my words. I mean, in 2004 defense, Romeo Crennel would like coach circles around the fellas that were running the defense in 14. But anyway, that's my number two. Not to take anything away from those guys. I mean, that's great, great, great stuff. And that football game like is just that there hasn't been a game that hard hitting in the NFL. I don't think since.
Yeah, pretty crazy. All right, I mean, there's only two Super Bowls left. We could just do five, and you can do make it six here if you want. I'll go with the 2003-4 team that beat the Carolina Panthers by a field goal. Kind of a forgettable Super Bowl for me, anyway. I know it came down to a field goal, like we mentioned, but where would you guys have that one?
Yeah, that'd be five for me. Again, 3-point game that comes down to a final kick, but probably never should have gotten to that point. I felt like they kind of let Carolina hang around. And
Yeah,
what's funny about that game is I don't think there were any points scored for like the first 28 minutes or so. And then there were like a whole bunch after that. So, yeah, I mean, hey, a Super Bowl win's a Super Bowl win, but I didn't think it was one of the prettiest or most efficient. That would be five. And then the rematch with the Rams in 2019 would be my six.
yep. All right, well, you got four and six left, so
Yeah, I have it four. I mean, I'm very tempted to put it three. I actually think it was a great game. But obviously all the drama of 28-3. I mean, you can't rank it ahead of that. But I thought it was a great game, tale of two halves. I mean, you had something for every football fan. You had like the boring defensive struggle, and then the offenses, came alive when the coaches made the adjustments. I know like a lot of the players on Carolina ended up being somewhat forgettable, which kind of tarnishes the legacy a little bit. But there was Ricky Prohl getting that game tying touchdown and having it ripped away from him again. Steve Smith, one of the baddest dudes at wide receiver in NFL history, and those incredible 1-2 punch they had at running back there. I think it was like Deshaun Watson and you know
no.
one of these other big guys. He was like kind of the Thunder guy, but I think an underrated game. But the three ahead of it are just so good that it can't be ahead of any of them.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for another great
Good list. Good
edition
list.
of what's that?
No, they're good. I think those are good
Oh, thank
lists.
you. Thank you.
Pretty similar to what I would have had. So,
Thanks for another great edition of Bandied About, gentlemen. Appreciate it. We'll look for you, our listeners and readers, out at the rinks and hard courts and whatnot in the days and weeks to come. For Matt Williams, Nick Giannino, I'm Phil Stacy. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games.